There's a little garage on a small town street. I like to meet my friends there every week, and I know we'll talk about some facts and things, history and science and some crazy shit. Talking it out with Alan, Ben, and Nick, and I know that it's gonna be a weird-ass show. Ooh, insanity abounds. Ooh, the world is spinning round. Now we're gonna break it down.
All right, boys. You know what we're talking about today?
CRISPR.
But-
Yay!
How do... We purposely kept you in the dark. Okay, CRISPR. You don't think this is a cereal, do you?
You mean the one with the rice and the 3 L's, right?
No, that's Rice Krispies.
Well, yeah, but when you don't add the milk and you dry it out, then it's CRISPR, right?
No.
Okay, no. We are talking about clustered, regularly interspaced, short palindromic repeats, or CRISPR. Now, as far as what that means, I have no fucking clue.
Okay, that feels a little more organic.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. CRISPR is, as Bill rightly and surprisingly guessed, is not a breakfast cereal. It is a term used to refer to a new process in genetic editing.
Well, new might be an overstatement. I mean, like everything worth knowing in this world, it came about in the 80s, sort of.
Well, it
all right,
started in the 80s.
Okay,
They discovered
if
the thing that led to it in the
If
80s.
Gundam has taught me anything, which actually, this discovery corresponds with Zeta Gundam, the best Gundam.
Okay, that took about, 90 seconds before he led us off onto a Gundam tangent? That may be a record.
Oh, you have no idea the rabbit holes I could lead you down right now.
And technically, that topic was already brought up.
Oh yeah,
We've
no.
been
Before
talking
you
about
before you
Gundam
got
for
here,
like the last
before you
hour.
got here. Well, I mentioned that I started after War X, and I very much liked the designs.
Let's just put
Speaking
a
of
stop to
designing,
this, tangent, and yeah.
Yeah, no, as Nick said, in 87, a Japanese team of scientists were studying E. coli bacteria and discovered these things called CRISPRs. These,
I believe it was at Osaka University.
I don't know. I didn't find the name of the specific location. They just said it was a discovery made in Japan.
I remember seeing it at one point.
Could be.
But
Anyways, yeah.
There's a university there.
But yeah, no. These things called CRISPRs that are basically a part of the immune system of these bacteria. They discovered they were there. They were a thing. They didn't really know exactly what they did, how they did it, and then kind of shelved for like 20 years. Nobody cared about them. Then in 2007,
one of those things in science where they're like, "Huh, that's neat."
Yeah.
Moving on.
Mm-hmm. Then in 2007, yeah.
I have the name of the guy there
Oh, yes?
who did it too. It was Yoshizumi Ishino.
Ah,
I am so proud of you. You didn't stumble on that pronunciation at all.
I've been watching a lot of anime lately. My Japanese pronunciation is getting a little bit better.
That didn't stop you from calling Karama a Buick.
no, but yeah, in 2007, basically they kind of discovered what was actually going on with these things, that the bacteria were using to fight off viruses that they were getting by when they would defeat a virus, they chop it up into little pieces, and then one of the pieces would get picked up by one of these CRISPRs by using something called a Cas9, CAS9 enzyme.
That's
which is the
why
critical
the whole
thing here.
CRISPR thing that we have now is referred to as CRISPR-Cas9.
Cas9, yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And basically what it does is it kind of holds on to this little piece of the virus and uses it as a mugshot for later use. So if it comes across another one of those virus, that it'll recognize, hey, this matches this, kill that thing. and go
I'm
in
just
and
imagining
tear
the
it apart.
system with a lineup. Tell me, have you seen this genetic code before?
Just think Osmosis Jones. They're going around with a wanted poster.
Exactly. It's exactly how it works. If you look in small enough with the electron microscope, you can even see the wanted posters.
That's incredible. Do they do the old-timey font, or is it modern?
I'm sad to say.
Helvetica's for chumps. That's all I have to say.
It's electron microscope, so of course it's in black and white.
Well,
What am I thinking?
I'm sad to say it's in Comic Sans.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well,
I
now
would
we
have had
know
more
this
respect
isn't a
for
real-
Wingdings.
Anyways, yeah. So,
Gothica Sans for the win.
but yeah.
I always liked Magneto.
So yeah, and after they figured that out, it took another couple of years. In 2011, a couple of individuals, Jennifer Doudna at UC Berkeley and Emmanuel, I hope I'm getting this right here, Charpentier at the university in Sweden, discovered that they could actually kind of fake this by inserting any piece of genetic material they wanted into one of these CRISPRs, and that if they did that and then kind of let the CRISPR go in amongst other genetic material, it would seek out and find that inserted genetic material and remove it, whether it was from a virus or any other piece of genetic code they did. And they wrote a paper the following year that basically showed, no, we can, if we do this, we can basically edit any genetic code that we want.
So you're saying that what they're telling us is it's like cut and paste. It's easy as shake and bake, and I helped.
Kind of,
In a
sort
sense.
of. But the most important thing to take away from this is that previous methods of gene modification, because gene therapy is not a new trick by any means. We've had that
they've been
figured out
doing
for a
it
long
since
time.
like World War II or something.
On a rudimentary level with plants, yes. It's one of those things. It's an old trick. CRISPR is just the new way to do it. Before, though, we were only altering somatic cells, things that live and die within the host only. Now we can make what's referred to as germline edits, things where you can modify sperm, egg, and embryos, things where you are modifying generations, you are modifying the species.
Genes that will be passed on to the next generation. Yeah. It's also far more efficient. They can target very specific genes, whereas before it was much harder to actually, target what you were looking for. And it's also takes less time. Before it used to take months, now it takes a couple of hours, and it's far cheaper. It used to cost thousands of dollars, now it costs about $75 to do this.
The
Insane difference.
The cheapest full DIY kit I found online was $200 without shipping. And that would have been coming to me from Florida.
Yeah. Well, I assume the 75 is like in a lab where you don't have actual profit margins and shit like that attached to it.
That I can't speak to. All I know is that some fucker in Jackson is selling these things.
Yeah.
Jackson.
Either way,
He
still
probably
insane
printed
levels
them
of cheap.
out on his digital 3D printer.
Well, okay, like for as much humdrum as there is around biohackers and the open source kits, these things are basically just chemistry kits that are getting people excited about science. Like, well, I mean, no idiot in his backyard is going to crack the human genome and create an Ubermensch. It's not happening.
But the point is, if somebody can add frog DNA to ancient dinosaur DNA and give us dinosaurs, who knows what might happen?
I mean, come on, what do you think they're gonna become? Resistant to heat scans and develop cloaks.
Look,
come on,
guys. We are getting dangerously close to violating my NDO with InGen Industries. Come on. Look, they have some serious fucking lawyers, all right? I cannot tell you what I did or what I'm going to do.
Yeah, no, those Scientology lawyers we could Scientology lawyers we could take on, but them InGen lawyers, no way. No way.
Dinosaurs
we can take on the Scientology lawyers because their stereo is bumping "Thank you for listening." Ours is bumping Queen. No. Here we are. the victors of the universe, okay?
But
Sorry.
yeah, no, but just to give an idea of how rapidly this has expanded, when they first came up with this idea back in 2011, there were about less than 100 different scientific papers floating around the scientific community talking about this, theorizing about this. As of 2018, there's more than 17,000 of them. Huge explosion of attention in the scientific community this is getting.
Yeah, no. Well,
When you think about it, this is the next big leap in science.
Oh, I'm prepared to
We've
argue.
already gone as small as we can computer-wise. Computers are kind
Well,
of getting
we're
to
working on quantum.
Yeah,
We're
quantum
getting-
processing
yeah.
is the next big leap there.
And
but
we are
that's a
still waiting for the
different
singularity.
conversation.
It is coming. It is still coming.
Any day now.
Yeah.
Unless it's already happened and we're already post-singularity and nothing changed.
Well, you know,
That
when you
they
start-
want us to know.
When you start looking at the actual mathematic odds of this being an ancestor simulation, it becomes a mathematical impossibility that this is real life.
Ah,
This
yes.
can't possibly be.
When quantum physics meets philosophy.
Well, remember, we're just a massive quantum computer the size of a world struggling to figure out what the answer to life, the universe, and everything is.
42. Moving on.
Yeah. So, you might be wondering, okay, they can do this, they can modify genes and
Well,
all
we've
that,
heard
but
a lot of
what
cool theory and stuff. What are they actually doing with it?
exactly? There's several different things they're at different levels of experimentation with. The simplest thing is actually determining what a lot of genes in various genetic codes, including the human genome,
Yeah, they're just
actually do.
strong-arming to my understanding, right? It's just literally the what does this switch do approach.
Yep, basically. Because we can map the human genome all we want, which we have, but we don't know what any of those things actually do until
Yeah,
we
brute
switch them
force
all on and
hacking.
off and test them.
Yeah, no, it's like Lewis and Clark. They'll tell you where the other coastline is. They're not going to tell you shit about what's between the two.
Modifying crops, using this as a substitute for GMOs,
I actually
some
found-
GMOs.
Is this what they ended up doing with bananas? The fact that they had to essentially clone bananas because the original banana population
No, but
died
there's-
in like 1990 something or other?
No, but there's a and it was the 1950s. You're
Okay.
referring to the Cavendish.
Yes, yes.
No, what actually happened there was that species is wiped out, but there's actually currently a fungus that's poised to do the same thing to the current
It's
bananas.
the same fungus from what I understand. It's just
I have just heard
evolved a bit.
I have heard it is a similar fungus. I have not heard the
Okay.
same. But
Okay.
the thing about CRISPR is there's potential that we could remove the genetic defect, making them prone to this, or simply add a piece to the genetic code that makes them immune to it. CRISPR this is potentially the greatest discovery of our lifetimes.
It's certainly a candidate. I wouldn't go straight to that statement, but it's certainly a
Oh, and
candidate.
we're still reasonably young. We've still got a back half to do, which is why I'm not saying that it is end all be all, but it's on the fucking list.
Well, because you never know. They always might find some sort of bottleneck that just means it's not practical for whatever reason.
Watch next week. FTL drives come out.
Yeah.
I was
Oh
gonna say,
God.
I still think space is the bigger,
Yeah.
if we can manage.
Well-
You know, we got to space in the we got there in the
Okay.
1950s. We actually got someone to another rock in the 1960s.
We've gotten to. Okay, arguably, we still haven't left the patio.
Oh yeah, no.
When it comes
Oh, yeah,
to
not even
space, like
close.
we're still just standing outside the door going, that's a pretty big step.
we walked on the porch, looked outside, and was like, no.
Well, we realized that there's not much on the lawn, and the next neighbor's house is way the fuck over there.
See, what nobody wants you to know is that Kennedy met with the Moon Men, and they're like, look, we're in a war with Mars. You don't want to get mixed in with it. You're in the DMZ, man. That's the only reason you haven't been getting shelled. You're on the bleeding edge of this conflict. Stay out.
Space would be so much more interesting if that were true. And I say that as someone who finds space very interesting.
It would explain all the pretty lights at night.
I believe those are called stars.
And satellites and airplanes and
Yeah,
UFOs.
we have explanations for those.
Well, not the UFOs.
Yeah, they're
By
UFOs.
definition, they're
By
unidentified.
definition, UFOs are unidentified flying objects.
Yeah, so, I mean,
Yeah, but they're identified as UFOs.
Are you saying that in this world there are known unknowns and unknown unknowns?
Perhaps.
If we know about the unknown, it's not unknown. Ow!
You also forgot known, unknown, knowns.
Motherfucker, listen to what I'm saying. I'm saying sometimes you know what you know, sometimes you don't know what you know, and sometimes you know what you think you know, but you don't know.
And this has been
You know?
another lesson in grammar by the I&C crew.
Actually, it would be a lesson in grammar by Samuel L. Jackson, but moving on.
Obviously, one of the biggest ones that they're looking at is curing and treating various diseases. Anything from lymphoma to HIV to cancer, basically any sort
So
of
Magic
disease you can
Johnson's
think
money
of.
is doing good work.
I don't think any of his money is in CRISPR.
Both, obviously genetic diseases and just using it to manipulate the cells of, like I said, things like cancer or viral or bacterial diseases. By
On that note, Nick, didn't you have an anecdote about them doing exactly that with the HIV stuff?
well, we'll get to that. I think.
We
will get to that.
We'll get to that.
Another one, and this one I found the most interesting, just because it's kind of out there, is using what they call it. The official term is gene drive, but in more broad terms, it's basically just altering the genome of an entire genetic line or even an entire species by manipulating the fact that when you get you get half your genes from your mother, half your genes from your father. So any gene that either of them has, you have basically a 50-50 shot of getting it. They can use these gene drive things they develop to basically make it so that you have a 100% of inheriting a specific gene, rather than a 50.
They can force a gene in. They haven't figured out how to remove the gene entirely from that situation.
Well,
is
no.
what you're saying.
Well, they can do both.
Okay.
This is just the one aspect of the forcing it, where they can actually modify the genome so that.
Think of it as
when you
forced
pass-
evolution.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
It's something where you can force a recessive gene into prominence, something like that. You can force your kid to have red hair.
Yeah,
Freckles.
they can
That
make
is
it.
one
Oh
potential
God, they're
application.
gonna start spawning an army of gingers.
That
should
is
all
one
be very
possibility.
afraid.
Yes.
No, that gets into the dangerous part of this.
Yeah, there's a lot of controversy around that, and again, we will get into that. And then obviously the other one, the most commonly controversial thing that they bring up anytime they talk about gene modifying is so-called designer babies. Picking how intelligent your kid is, how tall they are, any other
Hair
number of
color,
things.
eye
Hair color,
color.
eye color.
All that stuff. That
See,
gets
I
All
want
that
to
good
know
stuff.
if you, I want to know if you
Close to,
pay for a genetic mod for height if they don't hit a certain foot and inch mark. Like, do you get your money back? Like, how is that gonna work?
I would imagine probably not. You'd probably have to sign a disclaimer when you actually got the process that it's, this is what it's supposed to do, and there's this percentage chance, even if it's like a 95 or whatever % chance that this will cause your kid to be such and such a height, and if it doesn't, well, that's just the probabilities. You go in for that when you sign up and sign the contract, kind of a thing. That's how I imagine it would work.
I imagine that GeneCo would employ somebody known as a repo man.
I love
So
it.
they repo your legs?
Have you not seen that movie?
Yes, I
Either
have
of
seen
those
that. I have
movies?
seen that movie.
love it.
Either of them? What do you mean? There's more than one?
There's Repo the Genetic Opera, which is just
Oh, that I
great.
haven't.
Yeah, that's
that
the
I
one
haven't
I
seen.
would-
And then
That's the
there's
one I would
the really good like cyberpunk movie that did really really bad, and I forget
With
what
Forrest
it's actually
Whitaker?
called.
Yeah. Repo Man.
Yeah.
Repo Man. That's what I was thinking of.
Yeah, I
Repo
like
Man.
that movie. It's not a
Yeah.
good movie, but I like that movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I prefer the genetic opera. And it played to what we're talking about, so.
as just for a little, as far as like the who's actually doing this and who's doing a lot of this stuff, there's a number of companies or private labs or
Well, we
universities.
already know InGen and GeneCo.
Look, NDO, man.
In the U.S., you have Sage Labs, Thermo Fisher Scientific, the University of California, and the Broad Institute, which I believe is connected to MIT. In Europe, in Europe they got this thing going on where the patents and stuff are like still in constant litigation over who owns what. The Millipore Sigma, I think it's called. Toolgen, the Vilnius University, Harvard, the University of California again, and the Broad Institute again.
I like the idea of Harvard genetically engineering a superior football team so they become relevant. Just so that Americans will give a shit about their school. No, looking at the potentials of CRISPR, there's a lot of questions that get raised. Like, at what point do you view an edit as something that's necessary versus something that's not? Such as, for instance, someone born with dwarfism or blind or deaf. There may be a genetic cause for that can be addressed, but if you were to talk to any of those individuals, they would view those traits as something that makes them unique, not a detractor.
Well, and then you look at the fact that there's a number of genetic diseases and stuff that, if caught early enough and removed, could very much improve somebody's life later on.
Oh, and that's the sunny side up that you would use to sell it, but at the same time, there's still these questions that get raised by it, such as some of the current applications that have been being explored, turning various animals into organ farms. They've had a lot of success with pigs, which kind of not surprising. Pigs and humans aren't that different biologically.
Biologically, we're really similar.
Yeah.
They're about the best animal analog for us. As much as you would think it would be apes or chimps, pig's just easier to work with, and it's got the same parts.
Yeah. From what I understand, the whole pig owner thing was actually kind of going by the wayside. They were kind of giving up on it a little until this, and this has kind of reopened the door.
Yeah, no, basically what I found out was, like, they were looking at, instead of, like, being able to use, like, say, a kidney or, like, a valve, they're talking about, like, full organ transplants because they've basically rewritten it to be nigh identical to a human.
Livers was the one thing I saw mentioned.
Yeah, livers. Well, livers there's a perpetual shortage on, despite the fact that you can live donate those. Which I have to encourage people, if you're not using half of your liver, give it to somebody who needs it.
That's my liver, damn it. You can't have it.
I'm pretty sure nobody wants my liver.
Oh, fuck no.
In fact, I might need one part of yours eventually.
I smoke too much pot. I don't qualify as an organ donor.
I'm pretty sure I'm the only one here whose liver would be clean enough to...
Yeah, so what you doing over here, man? I mean, come on.
Like I said, it's my damn liver.
There's a moral calling here.
No,
but it's mine.
We're saving him for when
my
we
liver.
need him.
Oh, good point.
No, so there's already someone who has a claim on my liver. You might know a little bit, going into personal stuff, but I will mention that you later. You'll know who I'm talking about, but
We don't need to hit that tangent.
yeah.
I believe I was promised sci-fi stories. Tell me about the monsters they're making with this.
I can tell you about.
Are we making Frankenstein?
No,
I mean,
but
you've
I can
already
tell you
told
about.
me you
I can
can't
tell
talk
you
about
about
the
a
dinosaurs.
moron who live streamed injecting himself with a CRISPR edit to try and boost his muscle growth. It didn't work, and he now regrets live streaming it. Josiah Zion, I believe, is the name.
Oh God.
It's Josiah ZYN something. Yeah, it's a really crazy name. Just Google biohacker muscle boost and you'll find this moron. He was also selling DIY kits for a time. Like
But he was trying to make himself into Captain America.
his mentality on this, and there's footage of him quoting this at some kind of large speaking function. I don't know if this is him, trying to sell these things in some self-appointed seminar, if he's at some sort of weird CRISPR con. I don't know.
That sounds like
But-
a really fun con to go to.
I want to see the cosplays.
Right.
But in any case, his view on it is that CRISPR should be like an app for your phone, where you don't need to understand how it was programmed, what it works on, what it accesses. You should just be able to do it.
Just flip your genes on and off like little switches just to test them to see what they were. Let me try this one on for a while.
And I quote, I want to live in a world where when you get drunk, instead of going and getting a tattoo, you edit your genes. End quote.
That seems like a really bad idea when you're drunk.
A tattoo too. Like it's not a good plan.
Well,
That's
Plan for
mostly
the tattoo sober. Get drunk so it doesn't hurt. I'm not arguing with that methodology, but don't pick a tattoo drunk.
The whole thing with the tattoo is actually because when you have alcohol in your system, it thins out the blood, so you're more likely to bleed during the tattoo. That's the reason they won't tattoo you when you're drunk. They don't care. They don't care about your choices and if it's a bad one.
That sounds like the tattoo artist problem.
Well, yeah, that's why they will book you for an appointment when you're drunk. So you then have to come later because they take the money
See,
when they
I feel
book
if you schedule an appointment, you're just asking for me to come in wasted.
I will give this guy one piece of credit. If this ever becomes a thing, a regular, easy to do, proven thing,
Oh,
I
he's
could
gonna
totally
be
see
huge.
people getting drunk and
Yeah.
going and doing this. I could see
Oh,
not a good idea,
we're-
but I could totally
We're-
see this
we're-
becoming a
we're not-
thing.
We're not at the point of, treatments being commercially available to just Joe Schmo on the street, but in the next 10 years,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Where was I going with that? Oh, yeah, weird genetic monsters.
Chimera
Because
Institute.
here's the worry. Yeah, the Chimera Institute. How long before people start putting animal genes in themselves?
Well, it's kind of funny that you bring that up because
This is where the lizard men actually came from.
one of the more interesting applications of CRISPR, you've been hearing about for years and years and years now, trying to bring back the woolly elephant by breeding its genes into Asiatic elephant populations.
You need a woolly mammoth.
Woolly mammoth.
Where did I stumble?
You said woolly elephant.
I mean, technically
okay,
they
I
were,
swear. Hang
but-
on. No. Woolly elephant's going to be the right term here in a few minutes. Stick with me, folks. At present,
All the cavemen will.
At present, about the most we can insert into the genome is about 3% woolly mammoth, which doesn't so much produce a woolly mammoth as much as it does a wrong elephant.
A really hairy elephant.
And not even that, like patches of it. Like think if someone made a shitty gorilla suit and they just put too much hair on their forearms and like their shins and shit like that. It kind of looks like that in like the computer rendered models, but most of the breakthroughs in this in the past few years, like what's gotten them up to that 3% is CRISPR. I saw a real interesting interview where a very well-meaning British woman asked a very clearly bored out of his mind researcher, could we use this to make a unicorn?
Yes, probably.
Well,
I mean, when you put narwhal
his
genes
response
into
was
a
not
horse.
thrilled. Actually, he tied it back to taking rhino genes.
Okay.
That's where mine went.
and trying to
I would have gone with narwhal. They're the
That
unicorns of
would
the
be
sea.
more
going
aesthetically
with
correct, though.
Going with a prehistoric rhino genetics where the horn was still in the middle of the head. But basically what it came down to is, well, I mean, we could create a thing with 4 legs and a horn on its face, but it's not going to be that majestic mythical creature that you're thinking about riding. No little girl, no 6-year-old girl will be happy when you bring a CRISPR unicorn to her birthday.
Oh, the screams.
Unless you have the coolest 6-year-old ever. No.
Like Wednesday Addams?
I think Wednesday would hunt it.
No, I'm pretty sure the brother would hunt it.
No. Pugsley would be along for the ride, but Wednesday would be like, we're going to play African game hunter. You can be my rifle caddy. She's going to be the great white hunter. Oh, God. So, Alan, you were talking earlier about mosquitoes.
Yeah, the one of the applications they were looking at with the what do I call it?
Tailoring?
Gene drives
Yeah,
Gene
gene
drive.
drive.
is the main driver of malaria around the world is mosquitoes. That's how most people get it. It's from mosquito bites. The mosquitoes get it from a parasite they get, which then makes them carriers. That there's basically two ways they could use CRISPR to solve this problem. Number one would be the making the mosquitoes immune to the malaria parasite so that they don't get it, and therefore the mosquitoes are just regular mosquitoes. Or the more kind of bizarre way and kind of frightening if you think about the broader implications of it would be to use one of these gene drives to basically alter, because what they can do is they can take a genetic trait that you have that you would normally have a 50-50 chance of passing on to your offspring and make it so that you have a 100% chance of passing it off onto your offspring. So what they want to talk about doing is basically taking the Y chromosome, right, the trait that makes you determines that you're going to be male, and modifying it in this way so that every kid you have, or every child, every offspring that the mosquitoes have, would be male. And as you spread this around the general population, eventually you just end up with a population of all male mosquitoes who can't breed, and the species just dies off.
Genocide.
Yeah.
See, and that's
Mosquito genocide is what you're talking about here.
well, that's one of the potential risks here too, because if you completely wipe something out of the gene pool of the evolutionary game, as it were, and I can speak to this from practical experience. Most young fish, fish fry, fish fingerlings, live exclusively on a diet of insect larvae. Very specifically, one of the most common fish foods for small fish is something called bloodworm, which is a specific variety of mosquitoes' larvae. To give you an idea of how pivotal this is, I have dwarf pufferfish at home. They will only eat bloodworm. If the mosquitoes were suddenly gone, you're going to be removing a lot more than just the mosquitoes from the
'cause
gene
everything
pool.
that ate them is going to start dying.
The food chain is important. We look at these things as solutions to one problem, but we don't necessarily think about the consequences later.
Yeah. Which is why I would definitely say that the malaria immunity treatment would be the far more,
That
Practical.
Sounds
route.
better.
yeah.
No, that's the thing here. For every application of CRISPR, there's always this question of, well, we
There's
could
a light
fuck
side
up.
and a dark side to
Well-
everything. You can either screw it up or you can help, and it's kind of hard to see where that line lays in a lot of places.
Some of the worst things in history are the unintended consequences of good intentions.
Australian
the path to
cane
hell is
toads.
paved in good intentions.
Australian cane toads.
Yeah. Yep.
Hell, silver carp here in the U.S. Originally brought in to help fish farmers reduce waste in their holding pools. All it took was one flood for the things to end up in a local waterway and spread like wildfire.
Yeah.
Although, on a happier note, we can use CRISPR to get things like exciting new fruit options.
Like I was talking about with the bananas.
Well, very specifically, I was
Are we
talking
going to
about...
get that legendary mixture of an apple and an orange mixed together?
Orange and a banana. We should do an orange and a banana. I did this as a marketing project in college. It proved it was a great idea. An orange banana.
I want caffeinated grapes,
An banana.
so that way we can make wine and an energy drink. How much is a
Pretty sure
CRISPR
they
kit?
can already do that without
Alan,
needing
Alan,
genetics,
run the
but-
numbers. I've got a new
So-
idea.
$75 per great plant. How many great plants?
Well, if we gene drive and just, keep splitting and multiplying the plant, I mean,
What we need is
Yeah.
a vineyard. We need a plot, preferably in Italy, somewhere in there. Is that where?
Any number of places.
Any
honest-
number of places
honestly,
with the right.
okay, California,
Greece,
California has
California
proven
does a bunch.
just fucking grow grapes. It doesn't fight, just fucking make
Well,
grapes.
okay, we're already screwing with the genes. We can make them immune to the harsh cold of Michigan, right?
Besides,
we're all- already flipping
why
switches.
am I just seeing fucking season 3 of Metalocalypse pickles wine fucking brand?
Actually, I'm seeing more of the potential of what we can do with medical marijuana growth and stuff by playing with.
DEA, stand down, ignore that.
Hey, I
You
said
heard
medical.
nothing. Definitely not planning a weed farm.
It's legal in Michigan.
Ish.
If you go through the proper
Details are being hammered
channels-
out.
very, 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 very ish.
But in any case, these ground cherries. Ground cherries are actually an existing fruit. They've been compared to sort of like oranges and mangoes. They're
not like tree cherries.
No. They get their name because they're red and they're about the size of a cherry tomato. But they grow on this sprawling ground cover plant, and it's really hard to control the direction that they grow in. And just the idea of commercial cultivation doesn't work with this plant. The fruit's
There's no way
perfectly
to contain it.
delicious. There's no way to really control its growth pattern, but what they're doing now with CRISPR is they're finding a way to make the growths more predictable in how they form, so they're actually shaping the way the plant grows. They're not changing the fruit, they're not changing the plant, they're just changing the form. There's been all kinds of ways that we've done that with plants through selective breeding. Like, if you ever really want to get an idea of just how far back manipulating plant growth goes, take a look at what tomatoes looked like before they were red.
Yeah. I mean, like we said it before, the real breakthrough here isn't the fact that they can manipulate the genes like this. It's rather the fact that they can do it so easily.
And it's
and
the
with such-
potential
and
that
to the
this is
degree they
building
can do
up
it.
to, because, I mean, shit, if we can modify plants and stuff like that, how long is it going to be before we can seed a foreign biosphere? How long will it be before
Yeah,
we
with
can
things like
start
gene-
shaping one of the dead rocks out there in space?
Oh, because like
How long before we start growing shit on the moon?
you both have kind of made similar points with, like, one of the major concerns of gene drives is that because it's something you always pass on to the next generation, is if one of these things, like, there's an accident and when these gets out of a lab into a population that it's not intended for or whatever, all of a sudden
Right,
it'll
there's-
spread like wildfire and very little you
There's
can
the
do
clear
about it.
potential to create a super plague with this.
Yeah.
Like, and
this
you could
is
do
really
it
no
totally
different than
accidentally.
It's really no different than what the CDC deals with every day. We already have labs that have crazy deadly viruses and stuff locked up. This
Yeah.
really is no different than something like that.
You should
Except
should
that
worry about
now we're
private
playing.
lab safety records, but that's a discussion for a different day.
Yeah. No, I mean, one of the major concerns is that doing this genetic modification, which, while far more accurate than other forms in the past, is still not 100% perfect. If you end up with unintended consequences from modifying certain genes that you didn't know was going to come about, or if it modifies the wrong gene somehow, it can not only cause things like cancer, but actually create new genetic diseases.
Yeah, no, there's
If
this
done
has the,
screwing
wrong,
up.
this has the potential to be horrifying.
this has the potential to undo us.
Yeah.
zombie virus.
Rage zombie, maybe not undead zombie.
You know what? I just had a thought. You know the movie Children of Men?
Is that the one where everybody's genetically engineered and the guy steals another dude's identity
No.
because he's paralyzed?
It's
Okay.
the one where everybody's like infertile. Humanity's dying off because they're all infertile.
and there's like this one pregnant black teenage chick. And
Yeah,
they,
and
like,
they have to get her
ferry
to the Human
around.
Project. Yeah,
I have seen part of it.
yeah. I just
Never
kind
even
of
heard of it.
I just kind of retconned in my own brain that it was a CRISPR accident
It could happen.
that what caused that movie, which made that movie slightly more interesting.
Like that's the thing. Like we've seen tremendous capabilities with this. Like a study out of Russia that they did research at the embryonic level. Now, mind you, they didn't carry anything to term. hopefully no one would be that stupid.
Well,
Oh, God. Okay, HIV. HIV.
we'll get there. We'll get there.
Well, I was gonna say this may be the segue you've been waiting
No.
for.
No.
we're
This is
gonna
the
stick
coup.
on-
This is the coup de grace. We were holding off on that till the
Oh,
end.
God. But in any case, a study out of Russia showed the potential for a embryo that is HIV positive, meaning that one of the parents passed on the condition. At the embryonic level, they can remove the HIV disease. At least it looks like they can. Again, nothing's been carried to term. There's no long term to this, but it looks like an effective cure. It's not going to help people who have it. The parent's still going to have it. They don't have that figured out. But the potential for the child to be born free and clear of that shackle is there.
And that's actually pretty amazing.
Yeah, no, CRISPR is, the potential is truly limitless at this point.
Oh yeah, it's and that's why they put so much attention to it, despite the risks, because the benefits are
Were
just
you
that
talking
much
about
more
somebody who's
beneficial.
working on curing herpes with CRISPR?
Oh, okay, no, biohackers. Biohackers is the term for these morons who go out there and just use CRISPR on themselves.
Like the dude on the internet with the muscle?
Yeah. There was a biohacker who, in the same vein, and this was the only death of a biohacker I could find. I really wanted someone to kill themselves with a CRISPR kit. I really wanted this, but I could not fucking find it for the life of me. The closest I could find was this clown, who his biggest thing was he came up with a CRISPR treatment for herpes. No idea if it worked. Noble aspiration if it did. Hats off to him for trying. But he died in a sensory deprivation chamber. I believe it was cardiac arrest. It's totally unrelated to CRISPR, but there's all kinds of weird news.
You said it was
story
one of the
things.
floating tanks? Sensory deprivation.
Chinese. You would have a better idea than I would.
On Chinese, no, I fucking wouldn't.
Well,
Let me see.
I think that's Wan Q, but
me see.
I'm not sure. Japanese, I got you. Chinese is a different fucking beast.
Well, Japanese is closer to that than English, so
I'm pretty sure there have been wars fought over the
Yeah,
statement you just
I
made.
can't remember if the J in Chinese is pronounced as a Y or a
I
J sound.
think-
It could
I
be
think-
Jian Kui, he,
I think that's a W sound, but I'm not sure.
Jean.
for those of you listening, we're
Yeah.
haggling over the correct pronunciation of a Chinese name for a point I'm about to bring up.
This is the confused portion of
yes,
the podcast.
yes. So I guess the consensus here is none of us know how the heck to say this name. So out of respect, I'm just going to spell it.
We'll use one of those internet pronunciation bots later. We'll just put it in post.
Okay. As Nick was talking about the stuff with HIV, kind of the culmination of all this, obviously, a lot of controversy, a lot of discussions in the scientific community about regulating what they can and cannot do, how far they can progress. Discussions over things like whether or not you can only do research on somatic cells versus germline cells. There's a case came out of China. I want to say it was either earlier this year or last year, where a Chinese scientist, name is Jiankui, last name He. Again, I apologize for not being able to pronounce that.
I don't apologize, because 3 of us couldn't fucking do it. None of us are Asian.
This dude basically at a genetics conference stepped up and announced that not only was he doing research on what the Chinese as a whole have been getting flack for, using actual embryos to do some of these experiments, even though they're embryos not intended for to ever actually develop into full-grown babies. This dude went ahead and had already modified an embryo and implanted it into a woman and had it go to term and produced a pair of twins.
Now, was his goal twins, or was this
So
just
what was his goal? What did he accomplish?
Well,
Like,
His gene
as
tailoring?
far as
That's what I
to
wanna
be
know.
God? But that's not
Okay.
the point.
as far as
He
the
was trying to do something to these embryos.
well, yeah, as far as the twins thing, I did not pick up on that. Whether or not that was just they just happened to have twins, or if that was a deliberate thing. I could see it being a deliberate thing.
There's a dark history of eugenics and forced twin creation.
Yeah,
This is
so
why I ask.
given the
There's
nature of
a
this, I
whole
wouldn't be
religious
surprised.
belief in most cultures about twins being special.
My mind went straight to Mengele, given the general
That too.
timbre, which I do have a story I'd like to close with, given Mengele's involvement. But please,
I was gonna say I'm
Anyway.
kind of surprised we hadn't hit Mengele before this point because he.
we
He
will
was doing
get to the
similar
to the
things.
overt Nazi connection to this topic, but
Yeah.
we're going to.
But no, as
Tell
far
us
as
about
what
the
he was
twins.
what he was actually trying to do with them is he's modified a gene in them that he believed or hoped would make them more resistant to HIV. That was the goal.
Okay. Noble goal.
All right. Well, that being said, like I said, he revealed this at this conference. This was the first time not only the scientific community had found out, not only the scientific
I'd like
authorities
to-
in China, but his own university didn't even know what he was doing.
I'd like to take this time to point out that the creators of this technology actually asked for a worldwide moratorium on human testing until it is better understood.
Yep.
Like there is a consensus among the scientific community that this is too serious to fuck with, and
Or at least too serious to fuck up.
well,
Yeah, which, like I said, the Chinese are getting flack for continuing that, but even they are only using it on human cells. This guy
Except
went
for
ahead
this
and
guy.
produced actual
Yeah.
living human beings.
Jesus Christ.
Now, there is some controversy around his claims in general. The dude has in it, to the best of my knowledge, as of when I was able to pull up my research, actually released any sort of official scientific paper proving that he did this and it was in any way successful.
Yeah, I would love
there is
to
a long
hear
history
if,
of scientific grifters out there who just
yeah.
claim to do
Yeah.
something.
I would be
Like the guy who
interested in
proved eidetic
seeing-
memory.
He released
Yeah.
some sort of data, though not like the full battery that you would expect in
Yeah,
a
I'd like
situation
to
like
see the
this.
research.
And people are taking him seriously enough that they're actually, that level of mad at him. They think
How
he
long
did do
ago
something.
Was this? Are the children still alive and healthy?
As far as I know, they're still alive. Like I said, the guy made the reveal
Okay,
like
at
last
this point,
early
there's
this year,
no way
last
the
year.
Chinese government isn't involved. At which point, no,
Yeah.
they are going to be alive for the next 100 years, and it will not be questioned, except for in Hong Kong.
No, but that is him doing this. Whether it's they're pretty sure he didn't actually full on succeed, and there's stories that it might have unintended consequences, like you would think. Modifying one gene doesn't just modify one thing. Usually, there's often side effects.
Yeah, no, that's
Okay,
that's
but
the,
you haven't found
One
any
thing I
actual
remember
things.
hearing, this wasn't in my research, but I remember hearing it when I heard the initial story, is that it might have made them more susceptible to influenza on the opposite end. So
possible because HIV affects the immune system. If you
Yeah.
shut something off in there, there's the potential that it had a cascade effect.
Yeah.
but no, it's definitely
It's
produced.
definitely a situation to continue to keep an eye on as it'll be interesting to see how those children grow up.
Yeah.
I do feel
yeah.
it's a little unfair that the first new types are Asians. 40 years, guys. 40 years.
God.
Well,
no, but
no, only like 12. Weren't they all like children?
No, 1979.
No, I mean like in the show, weren't all the new types like children when they
no,
get involved with stuff?
No, actually,
Or am I
like
thinking
they
of a
they
different
seem
show where
no
they're
no
all,
no
like,
no no no
preteens?
no. They seem to say that like there's a prerequisite of being born in space, but Omuro was very much born on the Earth, but spent the majority of his life in space, and they claim he's a new type. So really, it's just go to space.
one other interesting thing they're actually mad at this guy for or I guess questioning, I guess would be the proper term for it. They're a little curious as to why he picked, of all things, HIV, rather, because we were
No
making
reason,
such
stop
progress.
asking.
But
Well, now.
If I had to guess.
that's one theory. But seriously, just because we are making progress in other areas, including what you mentioned earlier in treating HIV, it's not nowhere near the lethal killer it was 30 years ago.
Yeah,
There are other
there's
things.
all sorts of things that new drug trials are being approved daily for HIV and AIDS treatment.
Yeah, that there are other things he could have, tried. Other diseases that are just have no treatments whatsoever. That he
Muscular
could have used.
dystrophy is the one I've been seeing a lot on. Like they've been able to more or less remove it in dogs. Side note. I believe this was in Japan. I believe it was in Japan. A group of scientists created the most muscular beagles ever.
The most muscular
The most
beagles.
muscular, buff, ripped beagles.
That's actually pretty impressive.
I know,
Yeah.
right? I want a ripped dog.
Right?
I want my dog to be
That's not a
jacked. I want my dog to look at me and be like, so, leg day, right? It's gonna be leg day.
Do you even lift, bro?
I'm just imagining a cross between a beagle and a pit bull. A beagle head on a pit bull body.
Well, actually, from the pictures I saw, like they still just look like normal beagles, but like they're beefy.
They're
like
ripped.
it's still a little dog, but it's a beefy little dog.
Oh.
Like it's not like freakish. It doesn't look like there's water balloons under their skin. Everything's still in proportion. They're just jacked.
Aliens out in space are monitoring our civilization. One guy goes to his boss, "Sir, they've started using gene editing. Oh, what are they doing with it? Making ripped beagles?
What's a beagle? It's a type of canine, sir.
They're beefing up their pets. That's it?
How long until the
and-
dolphins
and,
come to
and,
stop us?
What's a pet? It's some sort of willing slave-master relationship in which the human is utterly subservient to the beast. I don't know. I believe it's some sort of ancestral recall for them. It doesn't make sense.
Think
They
Klingons
appear
and their
to
targs, sir.
cohabitate with unintelligent beasts of the world, where it appears to be some sort of combination of subservience and I don't know. I had some other word
There's
there, but I
just
lost it.
hours of surveillance footage of these things defecating inside of the humans' domiciles, and the humans just seem fine with it.
I mean, they get loud for a bit sometimes, but then they
They're
clean it
humans.
up.
When aren't they loud?
I feel like we've gotten away from the original topic. Do we have more CRISPR stories?
Just a little. Nick, you have another one, or shall I?
Because I can think of so many good and horrible things that we could do with that, but I don't know if we're to the panic speculation stage of the conversation yet.
Well, that's just it. I feel we've plumbed the depths and we've soared to the heights of the applications of this technology. I feel we've given a good representation of what's been placed before the public. But there is one thing that I feel is very important, and this comes from Miss Dundon. Shortly after the publishing of the paper on CRISPR that basically unveiled the gene editing process that they discovered to the world and started raising questions in the scientific
Now,
community.
you said Dundon was the one who
The,
made the CRISPR process popular.
Well, she was one of the co-authors of the 2012 paper that
She
laid out
was
the fact that
face
this is
of
all
literally
possible.
every
Yeah.
interview I saw. She's got a great TED talk about it where she really gets into the nitty-gritty of what it is and how it functions. But one very haunting interview with her, shortly after the publishing of the paper, she had a dream, nightmare, whatever you want to call it, where one of her work colleagues told her that they had a friend that they wanted her to meet. And when she was introduced to this individual, it was Adolf Hitler. It wasn't just Hitler. It was sort of a pig demon Hitler. Like it had a pig snout and the flesh was a little off. Her words, not mine, but
This was a
Pig
dream.
Hitler. Pig Hitler. And Pig Hitler was endlessly fascinated with the applications of CRISPR to the master race. Eugenics. The ugly side
The
of
ultimate
this
dark
whole
side of the whole
Thing, yeah.
The end of the rainbow here is not going to be a pot of gold. It's going to be something messy. And even the creator acknowledges this.
Yeah, it's, you know,
It's on us to move forward responsibly and ethically and to hold those who do not accountable.
Any
yeah, absolutely.
application of technology can be used as a weapon when put into the right, or in this case, wrong hands.
Yeah, that's
It is just unfortunate that as free-thinking beings, we do have the ability to think of truly horrific uses for technology. And the fact is someone out there is screwed up enough to try it.
Oh, I
Eventually.
Oh, I can think of any
Oh, yeah.
number of political philosophers that I wouldn't want anywhere near this with a 10-foot pole.
yeah. That's one of those things. It's as with anything, the greater the benefit, the greater potential risk.
Harnessing the atom.
Yep, absolutely. You know, and you know, I think there's good odds. We'll figure it out. There might be a few potentially rather large tripping points up, along the way. But I'm fairly confident.
We're going to survive them.
I'm fairly confident we will. I tend to be optimistic when it comes to things like this.
The most important thing to take away from this podcast, though, just remember, it's like a phone app. You don't have to understand how it works or why it works. Just get drunk and edit your genes, man.
It's as easy as shake and bake, and I helped.
Hey guys, little update. The scientist responsible for gene editing the twins was sentenced to 3 years in prison and 3 million yuan fine, which comes out to about $430,000 US.
This has been Informed and Confused. Thanks for listening. Bye.
Next time on Informed and Confused.
Pod race, lightsaber fight. Pod race, lightsaber fight. Rinse and repeat.
Gotta impress the Fuhrer!
This is the point where one half of our audience is laughing their asses off and the other is just turning us off.